Believes in the provision of high-quality public education for all, a universal health system for all, and so it must be with TAFE. You know, I can remember a time when there was a widespread understanding that the value of TAFE as a provider for the community, for training, it was the glue that held together our technical and education system. It was a universal national provider, and it must return to that status. And we're going in exactly the wrong way when we start closing down TAFE colleges around South Australia. We're having TAFE turn its backs on the local communities that are so important. We restrict the places that people can go for learning, and we've reached this stage over a period of maybe 20 years. TAFE's been dragged down by private carpetbaggers chasing profits in the training system and demanding access to public money and training facilities. Shame it is indeed. It's driven by ideological governments intent on running competition funding experiments in the training sector. It's been crushed by relentless cuts to funding and year-on-year cost savings and closures. This has got to stop. Yes! The more courses TAFE retreats from, the more facilities it closes, the less visible it is to the communities that need TAFE, like the community in Port Adelaide. If you think that all the forecast economic development for Port Adelaide wouldn't you think that all the forecast economic activity in Port Adelaide is telling us that there could never be a better reason than developing and expanding our TAFEs here? Well, certainly you'd think that, but that isn't the attitude of the local state Liberal government. Shame, shame, shame. They are hostile to TAFE as a general provider. They're doing everything they can to shovel much needed training facilities out as forms of incentive to employers rather than investing the necessary investments in TAFE institutions. They're hostile to workers' representatives on TAFE boards and on training facilities. They've kicked them all off. They don't want to hear that. They want to turn it over as just providers to whatever foibles their local business mates want. And you know, today, there's articles in the Tiser, there's warnings that reductions in GST provide the groundwork for further cuts to services in South Australia and to hold down and depress wages in the state public service. And if ever there was a bit of false preparing for the next budget, this is it. Because the reason that GST funding is down is because Australia's gone now through a protracted period of flat wage growths. And even the Reserve Bank's now warning wages have got to rise. Now the Labor government, which I hope is elected in a few months, is committed to trying to get wages moving again. It's not all about tax cuts and reducing the amount of money that's available for public good, but workers must get more of their share of the pie. And that in turn drives economic activity, and that's what leads to rises in GST that allow for us to fund state public services. But what's the attitude of the local Liberal government? Well, it's a bit below projections, so that'll just lead to yet another round of cuts. And this is that whole successive round of cuts and closures and further cuts and closures that's been going on. A radical rethink of that is what is required, and I'm pleased to say that I see some very positive news coming out of the announcements that Bill Shorten made in the budget reply speech, where he talked about putting $200 million back into capital investment in TAFE colleges, just like this. Isn't that what we want down here? Some sort of refit of this college? And so it is that there's 100,000 students who'll get free access to TAFE colleges. There's a boost to apprenticeships, all the kind of things that will strengthen and rebuild our TAFE national infrastructure. And locally, the state government is going in exactly the wrong direction. So, you know, we need to keep campaigning, all of us. we need to stick at it, keep going, because this TAFE college must not close.